Hello, everyone, and welcome to Portia's Place. I'm so excited to have you all here with us today because I have some very, very special guests in the house with me. I must preface this by saying my family is in town. We are together for our sibling gathering. It's not my sibling, but my mother and her siblings. They get together twice a year for sibling gatherings, and this year is the sibling gathering next generation. So my cousins and I have been working for a few months to plan this, and so I have a lot of family in town, which is it's amazing. You know me, you've been hanging with me long enough to know how much I love family. So I'm excited this morning. We're going to be doing something a little bit different because a lot of our discussion is going to surround a book. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But it's also thrilling because Viola's Vino is such an important part of what we do on every episode. And I am thrilled to have another of Viola Vino's namesake, Viola Pope, with us today. So my aunt Veda Brown is here from Atlanta. She is retired after a successful career in accounting and finance for one of the premier boutique brokerage firms in the Atlanta area. So I'm thrilled to have her with us today. Welcome to Portia's Place, Aunt Veda.
I'm happy to be here.
All right. And then we have her daughter, my first cousin and true partner in crime, Veda Crump. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So we got two Vidas over there. So don't get confused during the episode. Keep up, all right? My cousin Veda is a preschool teacher in the Atlanta area. She is changing lives one child at a time, getting your kids straight before kindergarten so that they are more than ready. One of the probably most thankless jobs, but one of the most important jobs. So thank you, cousin. And welcome to Portia's Place.
Thank you.
All right. And last but not least, I don't have to give a full introduction of this chick beside me, right? You all have met my mom, Vonetta, in the first 3 episodes of Portia's Place. She just said to me she didn't think she was going to have to come back again. But I don't know why she would think that because she's my mama, so she's going to be back a lot. We know that, right? So welcome back, Mom. Happy to have you back in Portia's Place.
It's great to be here.
What have you been thinking about? Well, I got to ask this now. What did you think of your episodes? Like now that they've gone live, they've been viewed by I was gonna say millions, but you know, it's all right. But what do you think of the episodes since we recorded them?
Episodes were okay. I really liked the third one the best. I thought we were a little more relaxed.
We were, Mom. I agree with you. I agree. I think the first 2, well, look, we were finding our way. We hadn't done that before, but we had also had a little more wine by episode 3 too. So that I think that made a difference as well. So welcome. The last thing that I am going to say, I mentioned this a little earlier. For those of you that have watched my 100th subscriber episode, I talked about the things that are behind you and how much I love reading and how one of my favorite authors right now is Iris Bolling. And I'm excited today because a part of our discussion is definitely going to speak to Grandma Viola and the impact that she has had on all of us that are in this room right now. But we're also going to be talking a little bit about Iris Bolling's latest 2024 release, which is Panther. And how appropriate is it that it's a part of the Next Generation series? It's not a coincidence. Yes. So we're going to really, we're going to have a discussion around some of the themes that really stuck out to us in that book as well. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about Grandma Viola, and we will talk about her throughout the episode. But she is the namesake for Viola's Vino. But one of the things that I think is amazing is that she had such a love of reading. Yes. And so, Aunt Veda, I'm going to kind of kick it off with y'all to tell me a little bit about, what you remember for her specific to reading and her love of reading.
I think
her love of reading came from wanting to know about places, her love of history.
Okay.
So reading, she told me as a little child that it took her to places that she couldn't be physically. And that is why she loved to read, and especially historical novels. She loved those. And she always made sure that we had books, series of books. Even as little children, she started with Bible study books, little children's stories of the Bible. That's where it originally started.
Okay.
So she just instilled in us the joy of reading.
Yes.
So that's what we try to bring now. Have a joy of reading all types of books and novels.
Yes. Go ahead, Veda.
Well, for me, being the grandchild is different. She always was reading with me. I had like the little highlight books.
Yes.
You remember those?
Yes.
I'm dating myself, but I'm not. But I'm also. She's one of the reasons that history is like my thing. Like, I would probably be teaching history if I wasn't teaching little people how to read. So I carried on what she instilled in me as far as that love and that passion for reading. That's why I chose to teach the little kids so that they can enjoy that, learn how to read, and also that joy of reading. Because, she combined my two favorite things, history and reading. She brought me National Geographic, so we talked about them being in, everywhere in the house.
Yes.
So she combined my two favorite things, and so she's really a reason why I am where I am today.
Mom, you have anything you
And
want
all
to
I
add?
was going to say is when we were cleaning out the house, there were lots
of books.
National Geographic magazines,
Yes.
and we saved all of them. We boxed them up, and I don't remember now where they are. Do you have them?
I have them.
Yes. We boxed up all her National Geographics because she did not throw them away. She wanted to keep them as a reference, and they indeed helped her to travel around the world.
Yes.
You know what I think is really interesting, cousin, you said something that really resonated with me, and that, Mom, I found it to be fascinating when Veda just said, I would be a history teacher if I wasn't teaching little children. And I have a love of history. We all do.
all have a love
And
of
it's,
history.
I think it's amazing how things are passed down to us, and how many things we have in common that we don't even realize sometimes, like, look, Aunt Veda called me one day and was like, I didn't know that you like reading historical romance novels. I was like, yes, I do, and listen, cause I thought long and hard about being a history teacher. I loved history and government.
Yep.
They were some of my favorite classes in high school. And so it's just, I just think it's so cool. Like, there are things that we talk about. Like, we are definitely a family of creatives. Like, we are creative. It is just natural. We don't have to read a magazine or pick up something or go on like we have an eye, or as my mama calls it, the eye. We have an eye for certain things. We are good at sewing and crafting and just so many things. And so I find it, it's so beautiful to me that some of the things that we share, particularly our love for reading, our love of history, it definitely comes from her.
Yes.
And it's amazing. So I love that. Very good. So definitely a love of reading.
And we don't think about it.
No.
We don't, because a lot of times we won't even have a conversation about the things that are passionate to us, but we'll say, oh, did you read this book?
Yes.
Or did you watch the show?
Or did you see this? Yes.
I definitely have called Vonetta with my, my show on.
Because what's that show y'all
The
watch?
show on the History Channel.
No, not that one.
Things that changed the
Foods
music.
that changed
Foods
the
that
world.
changed America.
Toys that changed America. Yes.
Everything
all
on the History Channel that was like our shows. I'll call her in a minute.
Yeah,
Hey, did you remember this? Or did you see this?
Listen, it's natural to us. You're right. We don't even think about it. It's just that it's who we are.
Yes.
It's our family.
And it's
so
ingrained in us.
it is,
And
no
my
matter
sister
what.
introduced me to an author a few years ago that just changed my life with history. It started out with the Blessing series.
Yes.
But she wrote so many historical novels
Yes.
that actually had factual
Yes,
information.
yes.
And at the end of the books, she would always tell us where we could go read more about the stories. And I learned so much history from reading her books.
Was that Beverly Jenkins?
Beverly Jenkins.
Beverly
Yes.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Beverly Jenkins.
Yes,
Listen,
so
I got to
much
catch
history.
up there. I'm just lost in the world of Iris Bolling right now.
Okay.
But don't
Yes.
worry,
Oh,
Beverly
we are
Jenkins.
too.
We are too.
Beverly Jenkins.
They
will
live
be
rent
next.
free in my head every day.
Listen to me. I gotta tell y'all, like, I don't know about y'all, when it comes to her books, and not just the books, the characters, like, I find myself quoting them all the time or
Yes.
thinking about them all like they're real people.
Right.
Yes.
You can't help it though, because
Yes.
we've talked about this. Her character development is just unbelievable. Like,
Yes.
I don't want to say it's unmatched. I dare say that, but I'm gonna tell you this. As far as the authors that I have read, the way that she develops characters, it's second to none.
Yes. I mean, and you watch them develop even as she writes them.
Yes.
As you'll see the beginning of this or this child being born, and then
Yes.
you'll see, oh, they're a teenager, and you see where they're changing now with a young adult, like we see with, the Panther book.
Absolutely.
That you watch this person grow up, and it's like
Yes.
they're part of, it's almost like they're part of us. Like, I remember when he was
born. I remember. Listen, we were talking about this earlier. Talking about Panther, like you said, like we remember when some of them were born, but this bond of friendship that's really highlighted in Panther, it started in Brian's book,
Right.
A
Yes.
Lost Heart, right?
Yes.
It started in Brian's book when, I'll never forget, at the end of that book, and it was JC and Elliot, right? And they're sitting there with their M&Ms, and he was like, I'm gonna protect you like my daddy protects your daddy, and we're gonna be friends. And he was like, okay. And then behind them, James Jr. and Calvin Jr. walk in, and they're just like, well, we're gonna look out for y'all. We're the bigger boys, and we're gonna look. And they put those hands in the middle, and then I think they're like, well, what does it mean that we're gonna be friends? They don't even know.
They didn't even know, but
They're
they
so
knew.
little, but they saw their fathers.
Right. And
And
so
they
they had
knew.
a valuable lesson. Like,
Yes.
just like we talked about passing on things to the next generation.
Yes.
Yes.
They have that same bond as well. They watched their fathers and how they developed and how they grew. And so they are carrying on that same tradition.
Yes, it's amazing, and I thought that very last thing when I think it was Brian and JD are standing there actually watching them
Yes.
do this, and they're like, and so it begins. But of course, now that's like what, book 4,
Right.
and we had to 5, right?
We're on book 30.
Because that was after A Heart Divided. So I think Brian's was 5, book 5, right? I don't
can't
know. I'm
remember.
losing track of that. But just to think about how many more books we've read, and now she's at this next part. Sidebar, I have to say this because I didn't say it earlier, but I also think one of the things that I definitely connect with Iris Bolling is the location
Of course.
of these
Yes.
books, because we are all Virginia ladies, 2 up, 2 down. And so, no matter what. So my Aunt Veda graduated from Craddock High School, right?
Yes.
And my cousin Veda was born in Portsmouth. I know you have lived in Atlanta many, many years. However, we just talked about this the other day. Portsmouth is in you no matter what.
No matter what.
Forever. So
Right.
I think that the thing I loved so much in the beginning was that she lives in Virginia. She is writing about areas in Virginia that we know.
Yes. Yes.
And I love when she mentioned something and I'm like, ooh, I gotta go there. Or when she was talking about Cynthia's wedding being at the Jefferson. And I've been to the Jefferson.
Yes, right.
Like I was like, Mom, I can't wait for you to go to the Jefferson, because it's so cool to read things that you know. Even when she talks about Hampton and one of the Lassiters graduating from Norfolk State, I think, with her message. Like it is so cool to read about her talking about areas in Virginia that we know.
Right, yes.
So I feel
We connected.
another connection with
Right,
her
right.
for that reason. So I think that's I think it's so cool, and I love that. So we talked about the friendship aspect a little bit, and this book, just to give our listeners and our viewers a little bit of a kind of synopsis of this book, but this is the first release in the Next Generation series. This book is entitled Panther, which is the first of the sons to have his book, which is James Jr., James Brooks Jr., the son of James Brooks Sr., who is the chief of staff for President Harrison, right?
Yes.
And this book is really his journey, and as well as his journey with Princess Zaza. And the other thing I loved about this book, so this book for my listeners and my viewers is taking you on their journey from the first time that they met. And I'm not going to give too much of the book away with the ending or all of that, but it really takes you through their journey and their relationship. And Aunt Vita, when we were talking earlier about this book, you brought up something that I think is one of the biggest themes in this book is trust in relationships.
Yes.
So I'm going to let you talk about that a little bit because it is such a huge theme of this book.
What I found interesting was that each character was, well, James and Zaza, they each had ambitions in life.
Yes.
And each was concerned about being a hindrance or a help to helping them achieve their goals.
Yes.
And so even in their relationship, they wanted to make sure that the other person could achieve the things that they wanted to achieve.
Yes.
And not worry about the relationship. Like, I'm going to still be there for you, ever how many years it would take. And that's what I liked about it. And even when Zaza was going back to her country,
Yes.
and James Jr. was talking with his dad, and because their country believed in arranged marriages, when his dad asked him, well, what would you do if her family has already set up an arranged marriage for her? And he was like, I would have to let her do it because I love her. But the right answer, but my heart would say, no, I would go and get her.
Right.
But even in that moment, thinking about it in an unselfish way,
Yes.
was really what touched me.
Yes.
In that relationship, talking about their relationship and the trust that they have in each other to do the right thing. Like, you allowing me to take this time to be who I need to be, but I'm not gonna be jealous of it. I'm not gonna be envious of it. I'm not gonna say you're not spending enough time with me.
Right.
Because what you wanted in life is so much more important to me.
Correct.
And I thought that was amazing in the book.
Especially for their age. Like,
Yes.
this is a young couple. I mean,
Right.
he
Yes.
has graduated from law school, but she was younger than he was. And you're right, to have that level of trust. When he tells her, well, I'm going off for a year with my boys because we're going out because we want to learn things about the world and how the world sees the United States. And so for them to never even like trip about that, you know,
Right.
and you're right. And for them to see that also, by me doing this, by me taking my separate journey, when we are together, we will be so much stronger and
Yes.
better
Yeah.
and supportive of each other. I agree. Vita, I saw you over there shaking your head. What do you think about that?
I know, but in that journey for, like you said, the boys going off and the young man now,
Yes.
going off to see the world, they even went to where Zaza was from,
Yes.
and that led to James Jr. having this different level of respect and viewing her position. Because remind you, she's Princess Zaza.
Yes.
She's not just, Zaza.
Yes.
She's Princess Zaza.
Yes.
So there's a lot of conditions that come with being a princess, and those are things that he had to learn and had to see and understand. Some of the things that she said, of course, because she said a lot of things about
Yes.
her country and what she wanted to see change, because there were so many different ideologies that are different than
Yes.
what we have here.
Yes.
Some of those
Yes.
like you said, my mother said, arranged marriages.
Yes.
How they viewed women as property and
Yes.
not just as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
And so Zaza's whole goal has to be to change it, because at one time she was not viewed, even as a princess.
Mm-hmm.
She
Correct.
was not viewed
Correct.
as a person. She was viewed as a piece of property, and that led her to having this decision and her goal to change.
Absolutely. Mom, you have anything you want to add there?
Only that he did have a life-changing experience while he was there.
Yes.
Yes.
He actually witnessed a woman being stoned to death. And it had a great impact on him, and you're right. It impacted how he viewed his relationship with Zaza, and he was even more protective of her than what she was thinking for herself, because he had
yes.
seen firsthand
Yes.
what could happen in her country.
And we're gonna talk more about that. We're gonna get into Viola's Vino, but it's something else, Veda, you said that made me think of something, that even as a princess, she was still viewed as property by her own brother,
Right.
Yes.
who had her kidnapped,
Yes.
to prove a point to someone. Like, he sacrificed his sister because it was almost like, well, she's expendable, but I'm going to use her to prove this point.
Right.
Like, how we're sitting here reading, how could you sacrifice your sister, have her kidnapped to prove a point to your other brother? Because he didn't view her, even as a royal,
Right.
she was still a woman.
She was
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that more
Yes.
after Viola's Vino, because that's serious. Like, I really want us to talk about how you said that, Mom. There was a life-changing experience for him viewing that stoning, and we'll talk more about that. But I want to definitely get into Viola's Vino, because this is probably the most special Viola's Vino, because we've got 4 of Viola's descendants in this room together in Portia's place. So this is probably our most special. I will say nothing is by coincidence. Talking about the book before we get into the wine, we've been having a little discussion amongst ourselves about Princess Teddy's imaginary friend. Yeah, not the second one, but the first one. And how this imaginary friend is blue. So, today's Viola's Vino is going to feature Rhapsody in Blue, which is a semi-dry wine from Nissley Vineyards located in Pennsylvania. I found this wine last week. I was at the Longwood Gardens Wine and Jazz Festival, and I had an opportunity to taste some of Nissley's wines, and I will tell you, this was one of my favorites. But I also really, they have a Cab Franc that's out of this world that I'm looking forward to drinking when it gets a little cooler and I'm getting to my dry reds. And I love a Cab Franc. But to tell you a little bit about this family's vineyard, it is just that. They planted their first grapes back in the mid-1970s. Their winery actually opened in 1978. This particular wine is Rhapsody in Blue. They have a huge music series at their property in PA. They are in Lancaster Valley, which has a very rich limestone soil that they really thought would be great for growing grapes. And so this particular wine was truly created with music in mind for them, a wine that could be enjoyed while listening to music. And so I'm really excited for you to taste this. This is a blend, and I'm going to make sure I get this right. It is 20% Saval Blanc, 33% Cayuga, 45% Vidal Blanc, and 2% Vigno. So you've got a lot of grapes there. But this is a fabulous blend. It's going to be similar to a Riesling. So it's going to be it's going to be light. It's going to have a crisp finish. And this would be a great wine for you to pair with a semi-firm cheese or foods, I would say, that are mildly seasoned. So I wouldn't necessarily have this wine with something that is spicy, but it would definitely be something that would be good with a mildly seasoned, maybe chicken if we were grilling chicken, or roasting it for that matter. I would also say probably roasted veggies. This would be another good one to enjoy with that. So what we're going to do, we're going to do our tasting here. Well, we're going to do the nose test first. So swirl your glasses a little, and then I'd like you to see what the nose is picking up. So, Mom, tell me what you smell. I know, you're looking at me because I started with you. I know.
Actually, it smells like a Chardonnay. I smell what I smell.
Interesting.
I don't know if there are any of those grapes, but that is what I pick up.
There are not, but the grapes that I mentioned, particularly I would say the Vidal Blanc, I can understand why you would smell that. How about the two of you? Anything on the nose with this?
I smell the freshness.
Yes.
That's it.
And sometimes people think, how do you smell that? But I know exactly what you're saying. It does.
Crisp.
Yes, and the grapes too, but it's not like an overpowering smell. No.
Very light.
That's why I say fresh.
Yes, very fresh, very light. All right, well let's do the most important part of this, and let's do the taste. Ooh, that's good.
Okay.
No.
Surprisingly.
Okay.
Surprisingly,
Okay.
it's good.
It is.
Not at all what I expected.
No. What do y'all think?
It's light.
It's light.
I like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You could definitely see like this sitting, having your charcuterie board.
Yes.
Yes.
Talk that talk, talk.
Sitting on a patio.
It is nice and mild.
Nice and mild, yes.
I think this is a great wine if you just got wine in the wine fridge stocked and ready. You know, coming home after work, this is the perfect one to just have while you're relaxing or talking, and or if you just want to have a glass after the end of the day. I think that this is a great wine for that. I also think this wine would be good year round. You know, some of us only drink whites when it's hot and reds, you know, when it's cold out. But I think this is like a year-round wine that you could totally enjoy at any time.
Definitely nightcap.
Yes, I also think that this wine is good for wine drinkers who may tend to like the sweeter wines. It's a nice transition wine.
That's what I was getting ready to say. It would be a good wine if you had a group of people and you didn't particularly know the types of wine that they like. I think this could fit in serving them.
I agree. I think this is a win. I don't know the stats as far as what they sell with this wine, but I will tell you this. A lot of people were buying this wine. When I tasted it, I was like, oh, this is good. It's light, it's refreshing, and it just be good to just have a bottle and enjoy it. So you're right. If you don't know what your guests like necessarily, this is a win.
Yes.
I will tell you, it should be of no surprise. Nissley is considered one of the top tier winemakers in Pennsylvania. There are a lot of wineries in Pennsylvania, a ton. But Nissley is considered one of the top tier winemakers in Pennsylvania. So I think this is a good one. I think that it's definitely a win. That blend of French hybrid grapes is just, it's done well. It's balanced. smooth, very drinkable. Other things I like to talk about with the wine, there's a 10% ABV on this. So that's not bad either because, you know, I think the last time I recorded, we were talking about maybe 13 or 14% ABV. So the alcohol content of this wine is not unreasonable. That's pretty good. It's only, it's a 2.3% residual sugar. And I know I have listeners and viewers that this is important to. So this wine is considered 100% vegan and it is gluten-free. So another thing, win-win. So, so it's great. I'm glad y'all enjoyed it. I feel the same way about it. I thought it was a really good wine, and I'm definitely going to be getting some more of this. I know that they do ship. So for my viewers and listeners, if you live in a state where wine can be shipped to you, we are definitely all for giving this a thumbs up for sure, for a great white wine, whether it's everyday, special occasion, whatever, it's a win. Yes. It's a win. It's a win. All right. So let's get back to this because, you know, ever since you said it, like I'm itching to talk about it, right? So let's get back to this this journey that that James Jr. with his with his other three brother, you know, friends, their time in Africa, and when they actually visited Zaza's homeland and witnessed this woman being stoned. And Veda, do you want to kind of just give us a little synopsis really of what he saw there with this particular incident?
With this particular incident, it was a young lady who was being punished for no fault of her own. At this particular incident, this young lady had been abused sexually, and her family had to have recourse for her not being pure for the family that she was destined to be with, or what's the word I should say, offered to this family. And because she was not pure, her father it was basically, you didn't take care of this thing and you gave it to me damaged, so you are going to have to suffer for this. And she was stoned.
Not her father, not the person who assaulted her.
Right. No,
she
was stoned because to no fault of her own.
Right.
Yes.
So that is why when you read the book and you see some of the things that Zaza is speaking to with James Jr. and where she wants to see this relationship go, and he understands that there are certain things that we cannot do in order to, as your man, protect you, because I know what those consequences are.
Correct. Right. Correct. And look, let's keep it 100. Like, James wanted to be with her so badly.
Yes.
And eventually the same for her on her side, right? Yes. But I think witnessing that made him, like I think Aunt Vita said, even more protective of her and her virtue and what she had said to him, because he saw the direct ramifications of a woman not being pure and what could happen to her. And it was so impactful to me, because we're not talking, this book wasn't written, this isn't a historical account of this. Right. This was right now.
Yes.
And what was happening right now in her country. Aunt Vita, go ahead, because it's something you want to add to this as well?
What I wanted to add was that the men were so cavalier.
Yes.
Because the men weren't expected to be pure. But, of course, the woman was held accountable.
Right.
And, like Vita said, she was abused.
Yes.
And when they were asked about it, well, her father didn't protect her, but then there was no consequences for the father.
None.
So I found that disturbing.
It was definitely disturbing. Mom, anything you want to add? I know you brought the topic up. Anything you want to add
just
there?
the whole theme of women being property.
Yes.
They did not they did not see women as people.
Yes.
Women were property, even royalty. Princess Zaza was royalty, and she was still seen as property. As Travita said, her brother had her kidnapped for political reasons, things he wanted to have happen, and he allowed her to be turned over to these people who could have done anything to her. But he didn't care because she was female.
And he was proving his point.
And
It was like, I'm going to get somebody to break in your house and steal your television to let you know that
Somebody can break
into your house.
Yes.
But instead, we use a whole human being.
I tell you what though, after James Jr. came across that banister like a panther and collared him up, I don't think he's gonna do that again.
No. And he got a simple reminder from his queen that he also has 2 daughters.
Listen to me, yes.
So that is a time now for you to truly reflect on the decision you made and make amends. Because at this point, there's nothing that happened to Zaza. She's not dead. There is a way to make amends.
Yes.
So it can be redeemable.
Yes.
But will he redeem himself would be the question. And that would be a question for Iris in whatever book it shows up in.
Because you know it's gonna come up again, right? You know it's gonna come up again, right?
Right.
Like, when I read these books, I'm sitting here thinking, oh, this is definitely coming up again.
Right.
You know? Let's see what happens, later on, because we know it's coming back, right?
Right.
I do also think, Veda, you said this, I also thought it was very interesting because he definitely was put in his place by Queen Akandi. Like, she put him in his place, like, and then I started thinking, we were talking about how women were viewed as property, and I know that she is a royal, but I thought, how cool is this? That she just kind of flipped the table, and here is Akandi, like, letting him know who he really is.
Yes.
Now, this is who you are in your own mind,
Right.
but this is who you really are. I'm the queen.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I'm the queen. So I love that. Go ahead.
But I also realized too, just when you said that this is not the first time Akandi saved Zaza.
No.
Right.
She's always been protective of Zaza because when Zaza was kidnapped, the person that was looking out for her was Akandi. That's why Akandi was able to get out because she was determined not to leave the person who cared for her behind.
Correct.
That led to her being the queen and being able to remind her brother that you may have a title in name only.
Yes.
Reminder that I'm in charge.
Yes. And listen, he definitely, it was crazy because I also thought this with Zaza, and her point was valid and spot on. Like, hold on, y'all. I lost my thought that quick. This is what happens sometimes. We get to talking about something. Oh, I got it. How she was kidnapped. She didn't feel safe in her own country, but it was like her brother benefited from his wrongdoing. Like, he had her kidnapped, but then he was able to marry this queen and become king. And here she is afraid to go home and face her family in her homeland. Like, I just, it's crazy, but it was true. Go ahead.
But what I do want to bring up that even though Zaza was afraid to go home, she was not bitter about her homeland.
No.
That was her purpose in going to school.
Yes.
Which even in her country she couldn't do that.
Correct.
So thankful to one of her brothers, she was allowed to come to the States
Yes.
and get an education. But she loved her home. She still loved her homeland so much that she wanted to go back and help bring them into the 21st century.
Yes. Like, that was going to be her goal, and I'm excited to see where this goes next as far as the building and things that they want to do. As a new Iris Bolling reader, I have to tell you how much I love when she brings the other characters back. Like, I love that Xavier and Nikki were back in this book, and Davenport Industries. Like, I loved how they become an important part of this, and I'm looking forward to seeing them again. Sidebar, Akandi, like, listen, I'm Team Joshua and Rock all the way. All the way. We're not going to look. That's another podcast recording. But I do love how Akandi, she comes through. She has come through in good ways, but still like fall back because you're not the star of this.
Well,
And I don't care. I know you're Teddy's mother, and I know you're the queen, but you gotta fall back sometimes. Anyway, that's just my thing. Yeah, so I agree. I think that this book definitely touches on so many different topics that we didn't even get to today, but we definitely want to send love out to I'm gonna say my girl Iris Bolling. I don't know her personally, however, I am about to say
know her.
yes, and we gonna meet her. So you better believe it's gonna be a part 2 to this discussion. Okay, it's gonna be a part 2 to this for sure. So no, lots of good discussion there on that. So listen, we're kind of getting to the end of the episode, but I wanted to ask each of you. We're going to get back to Grandma Viola when we're wrapping up today. And I wanted to know if I want you to share with the listeners and viewers your favorite or funniest story when it comes to Grandma Viola. And I'm going to start with Aunt Veda.
Well, I think my funniest story is around her love for history.
Okay.
And so she was always, let's get in the car and we'll go to an historical site in Virginia. Of course, Virginia has plenty. And during that time, we did not have GPS.
Right.
We had to use maps.
Okay.
But, and my mother tended to be the one that drove.
Okay.
And, but she would always get lost. We would always get lost going. And it became so funny. We would just say, oh, we're just going on safari.
I love that. I love that.
And my dad would never say anything.
Smart.
Yes.
Smart man.
Yes. But we was like, oh, we're just going on safari. And then she'll find her way back and we'll get to the historical site.
I love that. I love
you
that.
gotta do some sightseeing in between.
Yeah. I love that. So we're not lost. We're on a safari. I'm going to start using that one. I'm not lost. I just took a little safari. That's it. I love that, Aunt Veda. Cousin?
For me, one of my special moments with grandmother, because we used to drive from Portsmouth to Franklin a lot together. Okay. Me and her in the car at various points. But I remember one particular evening. It's probably why I love nighttime and the moon and the stars, is because, of course, when you're in the country, there's no lights. Mm-mm. And we would ride through, and she taught me about, the Big Dipper and stuff. And one night it was storming on the other side, and you could see like the lightning going across the sky. We kind of paused for a moment and just looked at it. Of course, we couldn't stay long because the storm was coming.
Right.
But for her to just be like, take a look outside. You see the stars and you see the storm, like it's there, but it's not, touching us. And I just remember just being able to just sit and watch the glory of the night sky.
Yes.
And then, we get in the car and, travel on back home. But being in the car rides with her were some of the most entertaining moments I've had with my grandmother.
I got
That
you.
was good, though.
I got you.
Yeah.
That's good. Mom, do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I'll talk about how she loved to crochet and sew.
Yes.
And all of the other crafts that she was good at. She was good at everything she set her hands to do. And one year she decided to crochet Afghans for each of her children.
Yes.
So she crocheted 8 Afghans and made sure that we all had Afghans for Christmas presents. And I thought that was an ambitious task to decide that you're going to do that many, but she loved us, and that was something she wanted to do, and I still treasure mine.
Yes.
We are thinking the same. I was going to say I have a green and gold Afghan, but more so, it's a little smaller than yours, that she crocheted for me. And I think about her legacy, and again passing those things on to us. And I think about being a little kid in 4-H and how crocheting and knitting and sewing came so easy for me. The rest of the little kids my age were struggling.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we each got different things, and that's okay. But let me tell you all,
I did not. That's skipped me. I had to stay after school for so and so. It's okay.
Let me tell y'all, I won a lot of blue ribbons in the Franklin Southampton County Fair.
All right.
Because of things that I was able to make, and it was always so easy. I remember making crocheting those hanging pot holders, and just all sorts of stuff that, to hold your plants up. Listen, that had to be from her. And then later on, when I started, spending some time with her and seeing the things that she could do, I was like, that's where I get that from.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because to be able to pick up on something like that, that just didn't happen.
No.
So it's wonderful. We have gotten so much from her, and through Portia's Place, I will continue to give back to her in a sense, and her legacy, and our look. We didn't even talk about our time in Cape Cod together, traveling, representing her travel. But again, that'll be next episode. We'll do that. So I'm gonna wrap things up with May's message, as I always do. I like to provide a quote or something inspirational or just something to talk about. But I have 2 quotes that I'm going to read. They're short, but I think it's so appropriate for today and for us in general. The first one says, family, where life begins and love never ends.
True.
Okay.
True. Absolutely.
Aunt Veda, you said that in your prayer yesterday out at the park. Our love for each other never ends. No matter what. We're all different. But at the end of the day, we're all the same because we're family. And the love we have never ends. And then one of my favorites that I quote often, family is not an important thing, it's everything. Family over everything. We say that no matter what. FOE. We got to get in the car. FOE. We got to go to Food Lion. FOE. And there are things that we will never discuss on Portia's Place. So, listen, I want to thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for being a part of Viola's Vino and Portia's Place. Thank you all for carrying on Grandma Viola's legacy and for honoring her by being here with us today. So, cheers to you all. Thank you for being here, and may you never wine alone. Cheers, y'all. Cheers.